Go.
Okay, questions for Phil Pritchard, folks. Write him in. He joins us now, the keeper of the cup, joining us from his home. There he is. How do you do, Phil? How you doing today?
I'm all right, Rod. And yourself?
Very well, thank you. Now, I have to ask you, are you in Burlington right now?
I am. I'm in my new office. I guess it's the new norm office. My backyard gazebo, me and my dog.
Well, it looks...
And I've been here. It's funny. I've been here since, March 13th or 14th. So I started with a toque and a coat, and I have a house full, so I figured this is the quietest place. And now we're down to shorts and a golf shirt and no shoes and no socks, but still getting the work done and still healthy. And I guess that's the main thing.
That is the main thing. And it looks very comfortable, by the way, and very sunny. But the reason I knew you were in Burlington is your neighbor, Mark DeNoble, is a very close friend of mine, the executive director of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, and he's the keeper of the Grey Cup. He goes, isn't it funny that the cup is only a few houses apart in Burlington?
He's just up the road, actually, yeah. So we run into him often.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
That is funny.
Who would know that across Canada? So, Phil, what would you normally be doing? We'd be, I guess, in the throes of the Stanley Cup final. You'd be traveling back and forth, right? This would be go time for you if in a normal year.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what? Rod, we'd be at the NHL awards and draft. This would be this weekend, actually. So we'd be in Vegas today. On a regular season, the final would be over. It would have been finished last week, and we would have been right around the NHL awards draft right about now.
What is the question, Phil, that you get the most when you're doing interviews or you have the cup somewhere? What's the number one question you get the most?
Probably, is that the real cup? It's probably the number one question. The second one would be, can I pick it up over my head?
And what do you say to both questions?
So the answer to both, Rod, the first one is yes, it's the real cup. When you see the Stanley Cup, as you spoke about off the top, it goes to a lot of different events. And when you see it out there, it's the real one. And for the second question, the answer would be you can pick it up over your head when you've earned the right to. You have to win it.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, then I have a question for you. Was there one Stanley Cup presentation that meant more than any others? And the reason I ask is, was it 97 or 98 when the Detroit Red Wings brought out Vladimir Konstantinov in a wheelchair for that Stanley Cup presentation? I'm not saying that would be the most poignant, but it really hit with me. Somebody shared it as a Facebook memory the other day. Are there any that really struck you?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I mean, I saw that one on Facebook, too, with Larionov and Fedosov and Kozlov and Fedorov. They all pushed them around. That was very emotional in that. I think the Colorado Avalanche, when Joe Sakic immediately passed it to Ray Bourque, that was very emotional as well. But I think for me, each year that Craig Campbell and myself get to walk the cup out to center ice on that red carpet, it's a new chapter in the life of the Stanley Cup, and each one of them is special in its own right because you're doing it in front of the home fans if they win, or the visiting fans if you win on the road. So it's a totally different atmosphere, but I think it's all unique.
Well, we got some great questions coming in now, Phil, from the viewers. So one, Jeff, the Stampeders fan in Calgary, says, I would respectfully like to know why Phil wears gloves when no one else who touches the Stanley Cup does.
Well, respectfully, because we work at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, part of our duties as preserving sports history is conservation and preservation. So we wear white gloves, whether it's with the Stanley Cup, whether it's with a hockey jersey or stick. We're preserving Canadian history. We did the unique thing of bringing those gloves out into the public and kind of showing respect to what we think is the greatest sports trophy there is. So we wear the gloves all the time. And if you go into any museum, Rod, every curator staff, they all have white gloves on. We've just brought it into the public to try and educate people about the history of Canadian sport and that, and what the Stanley Cup means and how much it should be respected and revered.
I love it. I think we all love it, and it's a thing. And, you look at the Lombardi Trophy, being handed out at the Super Bowl. They got all the fingerprints on it and everything. It looks disgusting. It's handed to them in pristine condition, just like you do with the Stanley Cup, Phil, right? Obviously. And what does it mean to you?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bettman said the other night, it was on the ESPN special about return to play, how this is the most prestigious trophy in sports. And you know what? Nobody ever argues that. That's pretty good. The other sports don't even put up an argument.
Yeah, and it's so unique, especially at Stanley Cup time when Craig and I are in the back foyer waiting for the announcement there with Commissioner Bettman. He's so excited about that time. He always says it's his favorite part of the year when he hands the cup off to the captain and there's a new Stanley Cup champion born. But you're right. I mean, how does another sport even argue that fact? This trophy is 127 years old. I guess the Grey Cup is maybe second best trophy from the early 1900s. But all the other sports, they make a new trophy every year. And nothing against their tradition. It's a great tradition. But it just doesn't have that historical value that the Grey Cup does. And of course, the Stanley Cup, what we're so proud of here in hockey fans.
Yeah, well, good for you for being such a big part of that history, by the way. And thank you. You mentioned Craig Campbell. Thanks to him for lining this interview up, because you're a kind of guy that everybody wants to chat with and get your stories and so forth. But let me just say this. I was with Gary Bettman here at the Outdoor Heritage Classic in October. I never asked him this, but I'll ask you. He kind of laughs about being booed. Does it really bother him, do you think? Or does he deep down kind of like it in a way?
You know what? I think it's very done a respectful way of the fans. They are so enthusiastic at that time, and he gives off the impression that he loves it and he asks them for more and everything. But I think at the end, I think he hits it right on. Hockey fans are so loyal and so passionate about everything about the game, and he's part of that, and he accepts he's part of that, and it's a lot of fun during that whole time there. But you can see the fans getting built up and worked up in that, and then they hand it over to the captain, and the passion even goes higher and higher. So looking back years from now, being on the red carpet with Craig, myself, the commissioner, and hearing the noise level from down below on the ice, it's deafening. And then it just keeps building and building. It's so neat to be part of, and I'm so proud and honored to do this every year.
Good. Well, by the way, we didn't boo him in Saskatchewan at the Heritage Classic, and I just think he's such a pro with dealing with it, but I just deep down think, how could you like being booed? It's got to hurt at some point, right? Even though it's become a bit of a joke. Now, another one, Phil. What is the wildest thing you saw with the club with the cup that you can say? Because I heard things got wild in Lemieux's pool and stuff like that. What's something that you could say that you can't believe I'm watching this right now?
Yeah, you know what? It's amazing, Rod, and you use Lemieux pool for an example, and that's kind of become a tradition over the 5 times the Penguins have won the cup. It ends up in a pool in that. We've been into Slovenia with Anze Kopitar. We were actually, this is a really neat one. 2 years ago when Washington won, Philip Grubauer, who's now the goalie in Colorado, he is from just outside of Munich in Germany in the Bavarian mountains. So he lives in the mountains. And when we flew into Munich, there's a glass divider between when you arrive and meeting the people. And we could see Philip on the other side, and he was dressed in the shorts and the Oktoberfest uniform, that you wear during Oktoberfest time, the Lederhosen. And everyone's getting photos with him. So we come out, we push the cup out, and I'm thinking, wow, Philip's pretty big here in Munich. I didn't think he'd be this huge. And I was talking to him about it, and he says to us, they think I'm an Oktoberfest promotion, but I wear this all the time. I live in the mountains. So then he pulls the cup out, and you should have seen the people come then. Like it was unbelievable. And he did live in the mountains. We climbed up the mountain. We went mountain hiking. We got to the top, and we get there, and there was a whole crew of cows there walking around. And this cow comes right over to the Stanley Cup, sticks his head in the cup to see what's in there. And I'm thinking, You don't believe this, and then until you're actually here on the top of the Bavarian Mountains with a Stanley Cup champion, and a cow comes over to check out the cup.
That is a hell of a story. Oh, good. I'm glad I asked.
And what's amazing about it is every time you go somewhere, whether it's a different culture or a different province or state or town, there's always something unique about it. And I think if the Stanley Cup could talk, it would have some bestsellers for sure.
Well, it's funny, by the way, when the Blues won the Cup last year, and there was 3 guys from Saskatchewan that won it, I was on, I think it was NHL radio, and they said to me, when's the last time the Cup was in Saskatchewan? And I'm like, boys, it comes every summer. There's always somebody from Saskatchewan, that's on a Stanley Cup champion. They acted like it was so rare. So you've been here a lot.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. Rod, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth there. To have a Stanley Cup champion, doesn't matter what town it is or what city wins it, there's someone from Saskatchewan on that team, because it just has to be that. There's some Western Hockey League guy that has gone through Saskatchewan, whether played for the WHL out there or from a farm boy from a town out there. So last year, I think we had 3 guys, right? We were 3 guys. Yep. We went to the Rough Rider game, right? And they took the Blues jerseys off and they had their Rough Rider jerseys on. So pretty special. And I think what's great, and hey, obviously we're in Saskatchewan territory here, but how do you get better fans than in Saskatchewan? They get north to south, east to west. If there's an event, they support it. They support the 50-50. There's no one better in Canada that's supporting their teams than the people from Saskatchewan. And I love going out there. Not so much in the winter. Love it in the summer, though.
Oh, I know. By the way, you bring a tear to my eye for saying that about the people here. That's why we love it so much. Some people have asked how you got the job, and some are asked when you are retiring and where they can apply. So you want to talk about answering those, Phil?
Yeah, so I used to actually work for the Ontario Hockey League. Their head office, Dave Branch. I worked with Dave Branch, the commissioner, who was the commissioner of the Canadian Hockey League for a long time. And I got that coming right out of school as my internship. And I worked there through contract and internship and as a job into 1988. And at that time, he approached me and said, we've got, he's on the board or selection committee of the Hockey Hall of Fame. And he knew some things about the Hall, and he thought I'd be a good fit. So I met with Jeff Denemy, who at the time was a former intern where I went to school at, and met with him, and he got me in there. So that was 1988 now. So that's 32 years ago. Loved it ever since. Traveled with the Cup the first week I had on the job. Went up to Newmarket, Ontario, actually my first week on the job for the Stanley Cup. We went to a minor hockey event, and those that, if you know where Newmarket is in Toronto, they'll tell you it's above the tree line, but it's about an hour north. And it was a great event then, and they've been a great events ever since. Regarding when am I going to retire and who else can take my job, I don't know. To me, and I'm sure you're the same, Rod. You love getting up in the morning and love what you're doing, and I think I do that, and Craig does, and everyone else at the Hall of Fame. We love what we do, so we don't consider it a job. Obviously, at a certain time, we're going to have to move on and pass it on and that. And it's great to be part of the greatest sport in the world, and I love everything about it.
The last one I have for you, Phil, and great answers, by the way, is, did the MasterCard commercial change your life? I think we all remember that, don't we? Can you tell me how that came about?
You know what? It was unique in a way, because they asked me to go on that as a commercial. And what do you mean as a commercial? And they said, well, we want to recreate it. And at first, MasterCard had this whole idea of having someone in the commercial, an actor and all that. And the National Hockey League said, no, if you're having the keeper of the cup, you're actually having the keeper of the cup. So there's cameras and all that around. And it's very stressful in a way, because there's not just one camera, and you don't just shoot it once. You shoot it from every different angle, and you don't know what it's going to look at the end. But it came out, and it seemed to go okay. But I think social media has really changed not just Keeper of the Cup's lives, but I think obviously everybody's life. And in the way information is passed so instantly and so frequently in that, and it's just become kind of part of our everyday culture now. But the MasterCard commercial certainly has has changed a lot. And I mean, we've done a bunch of different commercials since then with the Stanley Cup, and it's great that an inanimate object can be on a TV commercial and be so well recognized.
Well, I remember it, and that's hilarious. You've been on the red carpet handing up the Stanley Cup in front of millions of fans, and a TV camera made you nervous, or several cameras. That's funny. That's funny. Well, I'll say this. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know Craig had contacted you about that he started listening to this, and he got us all started listening to this. You got a great show there, and we're thrilled to be on it. I hate going on these type of things. Though. Look at me. I haven't had a haircut in like 3 months. I don't like. I got to get something done. My son went and ordered online a hair cutting machine, so he's going to give it a whirl, and then I might be next. So we'll see what happens. But hey, it's thrilled to be on, and hey, maybe there will be a season. Fingers crossed, and we'll be back in Saskatchewan before you know it with the Stanley Cup champion.
We'd love to have you, Phil. As always, to tell anybody to head down to the Hockey Hall of Fame when it opens downtown on Front Street. I've been there. It is an absolute must-see when you're in Toronto. Phil, thanks for the time. Stay safe, and here's hoping there's hockey soon.
Yeah, be safe, be well, Rod. Thanks for having us, and hope to talk to you soon.
Awesome. The keeper of the cup, Phil Pritchard from Burlington, Ontario. I bet you he didn't know that I knew his neighbor was Mark DeNoble.
That's cool. That's cool. Wild, eh? Like, what a street.
I know. The Grey Cup and the Stanley Cup are on the same street. Nobody knows.
Championship Way or something.
That should
like
call it that, yeah. We'll be back. And another thank you to Craig Campbell for lining that up. And what great stories, man. Just makes you miss hockey more.
Oh, I know.
But at least we can talk about it until the games come back. We'll be right back. It is the RP Show, Facebook Live, Game Plus TV Network, and listen live at rodpeterson.com.
You're watching Rod Peterson On Demand. For more of The Rod Peterson Show, visit rodpeterson.com or follow Rod Peterson on social media.